So when you're in a database, there's three types of relationships. There's three standard types of relationships. And now the most common one is one-to-many, because that's why you have a database. So you can make things so that there's one of one thing and many of another thing. If you only had one-to-one relationships, if everything of X had one of Y, you could just use a spreadsheet. You could just use one table in a database. That spreadsheet would do it. Every line has got one thing. And uh, and sometimes people try to do that. For example, the DS1 table. They tried to make it everything have one, but it didn't work very well because you have those 20 T diag 1 to T diag 25. That didn't work very well. So most times you have a one-to-many relationships. You take one of these things and you put and attach it to many of these things. For example, a single patient has many test results. A single test result belongs only to one patient. So you how do you determine if something's a one-to-many relationship? You look at both sides of it. So you say, for example, patient and test results. I'm a single patient. How many test results do I have? Many. And I go over to the test result side and I say, I'm a single test result. How many patients do I belong to? One. So many to one. You got to ask those two questions to determine what kind of relationship it is. And you'll forget, but don't, just try to remember to ask those two questions. At every time you create a relationship in a database, you say, how many of these? How many of these? Where does the one go? Where does the many go? There's also many-to-many relationships. For example, doctor sees patients. So I'm a single doctor. How many patients do I see? Many. I'm a single patient. How many doctors do I see? Many. You have to set the table up so that it does that. So it's a many-to-many relationship. And they're a little different, and they have to have different implementations in the database. You'll see what we do in those different cases, but those are the two main things. Now, there's one-to-one relationships. They're basically treated like one-to-many relationships, but we just don't care which side, which way they go. It's just there, and you're not so common. Why are they not so common? Because why would you do it? Why not just put all the fields in the same table? If you've got a whole bunch of attributes about one person, for example, patient, Dennis, for example, attributes about Dennis, blah, 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 and then attributes about Dennis's left arm. Well, why not just put that into Dennis's table? You would do it sort of for administrative purposes, because sometimes it's more useful to be able to say things about Dennis's left arm, to sort of put that over in a certain section of the thing when you've got a lot of information. But it's not as common as one-to-one and one-to-many and many-to-many. So examples. I'm going to give you 3 examples. The first 2 examples are very simple. They're going to exemplify one-to-one relationships and one-to-many relationships and many-to-many relationships. And then I'm going to kind of combine them together in the end into a larger example that has a lot of relationships. So the first one, patients and test results. So patients has test results. A single patient has many test results. Single test result belongs to one patient. That's a one-to-many relationship, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And so the first thing you do, it's a 5-step process. Every time you got a relationship or a whole set of relationships, it's a 5-step process. So you say, what are the tables? And the tables are the lists of things. So in this case, we've got patients, we've got multiple patients, so we need a table for it. You don't need a table when there's just one thing. But we do. We've got multiple patients, we've got multiple test results. A patient might even have more than one test result. So we've got lists of patients and lists of test results. And what are the attributes? Attributes are the columns or the fields in the table. And so, for example, patient is going to have name and address. A test result is going to have a value about whether it's a normal value or not. And so those are the attributes. So you choose the tables, you figure out what's in the tables. You end up with this block of data. You're trying to think of what's the Excel spreadsheet look like for this data. And so then you choose the relationships, and it's good if you can find a word to fit between those two. Often has works, but if you can find a better word, that's better. Patient has test results. So a patient has a test result, and the cardinality, which is that bingo word from earlier, is there 1 to M. So I'm a single patient. How many test results do I have? So I reach over to test result and I say many. So then I put the many on that side of the put that side of the thing. And then I go over to test result and I say, gee, my camera's backwards. Anyways, I go over to test result and I say, how many patients do I have? One. So how many patients do I belong to? One. So you put a one over on that side of the relationship. It's going to be hard to do that the other way around, but I'll try for the next one. So you choose the tables, choose the relationships. So yay, you're on your way to making a database. You got tables, you got relationships, and then you've got to think about, well, what do we do? How do we put the keys, the foreign keys? How do we connect them up? What's the method for connecting them up? That's what we're going to learn next. So the third thing you do is you draw this thing called an ER diagram, which contains both the table names, the fields, and the cardinality. It's beautiful. It's got a little box here. It's got a diamond in the middle. It's got the word in the box has 1 and an M. ER diagrams. You have to learn to do this. You have to learn how to make these diagrams. That is the KPI for this class, and you will be marked on it. So get good at it. It's pretty simple though. 3-step process. It's the third step. Not too hard. You got to make a few boxes. Just get out your ruler. Pretend you're in kindergarten. Draw some boxes. Great. Third step, draw ER diagrams. And the fourth step is you take that ER diagram and you convert it into some tables. You define some tables as a result of those ER diagrams. So you transcribe the tables. You take what's in the ER diagram, this physical picture that you drew, which is kind of beautiful and you can show your mom, and then you transcribe it. You put it into text. Your mom's not going to like this so much. This is what more for me. So you transcribe, you make it. These are the things that are going to be in the database. You've got patient. This is the format. You have table name, open bracket. You underline the primary keys. You list out all the fields. So it's very simple. It's just copying down the things that are on this screen and putting them in this format. Next step, fourth step. Very simple. Again, it's very simple. And then the final thing is you do something, you figure out how the relationships are going to work. So you put the relationship linkages into the tables. Into the transcribed tables, you need to put the relationships in there. And what are the relationships? So when you've got a one-to-many relationship, you take the primary key from the one table. So which is the one table? I'm going to do this. You take the primary key from the patient table and you take it and you put it into the result table. So what's the primary key from the patient table? It's patient ID. So we've got to put patient ID into the result table. So we know, you think about it, the result has to know what patient it belongs to. So you have to put it in there. And sure enough, and that's what happens. So you transcribe, you take that patient ID and put it into the result table. You see, we got patient ID there in the result table. And you've transcribed your table. You could make a database that has patient results. You probably wouldn't make a lot of money for it, but still, it's a good start. I'd be very proud of you. You could show it to your mom and she'd be like, I'm so proud of you. You made a database. Really, it's good. It's good. It's your first database. But there's more. So the final table specification is, and when you transcribe you italicize the foreign keys. So you underline the primary keys, italicize the foreign keys. None of that red stuff, just simple italics. That there's more. Yeah, I'll pause the recording there.